Well, it's time for part 3 of my breakdown of Rolling Stone's 200 greatest hip-hop albums of all time list. In the first two parts of this list, which consisted of me counting down numbers 200 all the way down to 161, there were some excellent picks, but there were even more picks that infuriated me as a lifelong hip-hop fan, as some of my favorite hip-hop albums were ranked way too low. Regardless, there's been a lot of variety on this list so far. It's been fun breaking things down. Let's do it again. This is part 3 covering numbers 160 to 141. I'm Ryan, I talk music, let's go! Quick reminder, this isn't a blind reaction, but I did see this list for the first time when I wrote the script for the video. This is the first time I've done anything other than type up my feelings, the first time I've verbalized it. So yeah, this is pretty important to me. I love hip-hop more than any other genre of music, and now it's time to get back into the list and keep things flowing. Part 3 starts right where part 2 left off, ranking an all-time great hip-hop album way too low. This time, it's Big L's Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous at number 160 of all time. His 1995 classic didn't exactly move mountains when it came out, and Big L really only got big and well respected after his untimely death in 1999, but he did come out with this album in 95 as part of the Uptown and Bronx-based DITC crew. He immediately had some head-spinning punchlines and bars that caught the attention of the hip-hop world. He was the most talented lyricist in the collective, but at the same time, he mostly stayed underground and didn't really make a huge impression outside of New York. The beats here are pure mid-90s grit from names like Buck Wild, Lord Finesse, and Diamond D, and even with more accessible songs like the first 2 tracks, MVP and Put It On, this album is extremely dark and menacing, one of the darker East Coast hip-hop albums of the 90s, and there are many. If you really know and appreciate hip-hop, putting this outside of the top 100 is unacceptable. This one goes into my top 25. What a disappointing start to this section. Number 159 is a more appropriate pick. It's the debut from producers Dan the Automator and Prince Paul as part of the Handsome Boy Modeling School project. The album's called So How's Your Girl? This is a late 90s experimental hip-hop classic as the producers come from opposite coasts, but they were both weirdos when it came to their production style. They did a lot of left field stuff and sampling, especially Dan the Automator. They also bring a wide roster of guest MCs into the fold from all over the map. The result is an unforgettable album that I will say is a little bit bloated, but it's also busy, it's fun, it keeps the listener engaged. It features a lot of different styles, including instrumental hip-hop, East Coast, West Coast leaning hip-hop, some trip-hop even, and there are a ton of abstract lyrics and bars. It's a perfect encapsulation of that late 90s underground scene. It's a solid LP. It's probably top 125 in my book, but see it at 159, yeah, that makes sense. I love Devin the Dude. He's one of the most unique Southern rappers of all time. His 2002 album, Just Trying to Live, comes in at number 158. I'm pretty sure this is the only Devin the Dude album that will get on this list, and while it has great songs like Doobie Ashtray and Nas and Exhibit guest spots on the song Some of Them, I tend to gravitate towards 2 of his other albums, 1998's The Dude and 2004's To the Extreme. It's kind of a toss-up if you ask most hip-hop critics about actually his first 4 albums, as the first decade of his career was extremely solid. So it comes down to personal preference, and while Just Trying to Live is probably number 3 in his discography for me, I am so glad to see Rolling Stone acknowledge him on this list. It's very well deserved. Sometimes Rolling Stone gets it right, and they did here. Triple X by Danny Brown, his breakout album / mixtape from 2011, is number 157 here. I think this is his second best project after 2016's Atrocity Exhibition, which I hope we see much higher, top 50, top 25. But for Triple X, I do think a placement just right outside of the top 150 makes sense. After a couple of previous mixtapes, Danny really did break out with this thing at the age of 30, hence the title Triple X, Roman numerals. The album is wild, it's debaucherous, but it shows multiple angles of Danny Brown and kind of the way he is as a rapper. He was never one-track minded, and while his voice comes off as kind of nasally and high-pitched and almost annoying, if you listen to some of his subject matter, he's actually pretty deep at times. You got his crazy, drug-addled party boy style on songs like Die Like a Rock Star, Pac Blood, and Blunt After Blunt. You do have a more introspective but still grimy as hell side on songs like DNA or Scrap or Die, with the latter actually being about how it's easy for these inner city Detroit guys to make a buck or two by going into abandoned buildings and stealing metal. Yeah, that's pretty hardcore. Party All the Time is this really sad, unassuming storytelling cut that really showed versatility in Danny's delivery, his subject material. He shows this versatility throughout the album with this delivery that ranges from this high-pitched, loud, nasal, in-your-face, all the way down to subdued, reflective, and sometimes times introspective. Good pick at number 157. At number 156, we get a DJ Quik album. It's his 1991 debut. Quik is the name. I hope this isn't the only DJ Quik album on this list. Quik had some great output later in the 90s, but this was a solid debut. The whole album, specifically songs like Born and Raised in Compton, showed this early G-Funk bounce. G-Funk was really just starting to come up through the ranks at the time, and while Dr. Dre was kind of the father of it, DJ Quik really did have some early influence on the genre as well. Quik delivers some street smart tales in his slightly high-pitched but slick voice. He's known for being a producer, a rapper, an engineer, an instrumentalist, and he really had a heavy hand in all of the music he created. Seldom is that actually the case in hip-hop. He embodied an early West Coast DIY style that grew through the years, and while his debut is excellent, let's also hope that we see 1995's Safe and Sound or 1998's Rhythmalism farther down the list. I'm noticing a troubling trend here in kind of the first 50 or so albums of this list, and that's a lot of heralded East Coast mid-90s hip-hop albums are just way too low. Jeru, The Damajas, The Sun Rises in the East at number 155 is a perfect or imperfect example of this. This is easy, a top 50 all-time for me, and it really helped define that gritty mid-90s New York sound. This, in my opinion, should never be outside of any hip-hop fan's top 100. The production job by DJ Premier on this album is one of the best in hip-hop history. There's some excellent beats, some jaw-dropping samples, and Jeru kicks some introspective, conscious lyrics while also staying hardcore and providing great storytelling on songs like You Can't Stop the Prophet, for instance. This album really did contribute to the way that New York sound evolved in the mid-90s, one of the most important eras in any regional scene in hip-hop history. This is beyond influential and important, and number 155 of all time for The Sun Rises in the East, disrespectful. In the first two parts of this list, we saw a lot of different formats: albums, mixtapes, compilations, soundtracks. So here at 154, we have an interesting compilation. It's from 80s DJ Steve Stein, better known as Steinski. It's his 2008 compilation, What Does It All Mean? 1983 to 2006 retrospective. Steinski was really one of the pioneers of demonstrating that sampling really did not have any limits, and he got his career started back in the day where hip-hop artists weren't paying for samples. This compilation features a staggering 2 hours of his work along the way between the mid-80s and the mid-2000s, and it includes cuts that feature pioneers like Africa Bambaataa all the way up to a remix of Nelly's Country Grammar. There are a number of early cuts with his right-hand man Double D. During the glory years, it was Steinski and Double D. They were two of the earliest guys to really help innovate the art of sampling in hip-hop. This is an obscure, interesting collection of some superb turntablism and experimental instrumental hip-hop. It's an interesting pick at number 154, I'll say that. Eazy-E's debut album from 1988, Easy Does It at number 153. This is a placement I can respect. This is a solid album. I've always said that Eazy-E's kind of a joker on the mic, whether he was trying to be humorous or not. He kind of sounded a little bit slow with his delivery, but it was funny and enjoyable. Whether or not he meant it in a serious way, we'll never know. He's not the most technical rapper here, but what shines through here is his swagger, his demeanor, his overall presence, which really for his entire career made up for that lackadaisical writing. It's an important early West Coast album. It's got solid cuts like Still Talkin', Radio, Boys in the Hood remix. Dr. Dre and Yella from NWA contribute production here, and I kind of see this as an extension of what NWA was doing at the time. Straight Outta Compton, of course, coming out right around the same time. So this is a cool album. It's not one that should be too high up, because if you got a guy like Eazy-E carrying something lyrically, it's not really that great. So 153, appropriate placement in my eyes. Ray Sremmurd's Srem Life from 2015 at number 152. No, I'm sorry. No. This doesn't belong in the top 200. I will say the song Black Beatles from their next album, Srem Life 2, is a guilty pleasure of mine. But even that album, which was slightly better, doesn't sniff the top 200 in my book. This is early trap with some cloud rap undertones. This kind of led to the end of the 2010 sound in mainstream hip-hop a little bit. So there is an influential piece to this. But looking back on this, the work really hasn't aged too well. It's kind of stuck in the 2010s, and replay value is pretty low. So yeah, no, sorry. Anything by Ray Sremmurd in the top 200, that just doesn't make sense. I can theoretically understand picking Lil Nas X's Montero at number 151. Do I agree with it? No. Lil Nas X was hugely marketable and successful earlier in his career before he was out there attacking cops. And there is actually a good amount of sonic diversity on this album. Anytime you get Elton John on a hip-hop album, it's something you gotta hear at least once. There's, again, the LGBTQ angle that's honestly daring and something that hip-hop probably needs more of, with the hip-hop community's toxic relationship with the LGBTQ community for some so long. But also, I can't really get behind top 200 on this one. Musically, it's not that great. Lil Nas X, he's more of a pop star. I do get how trend-setting and different that Lil Nas X was, both on and off the mic, but this pick does not make sense to me. Sorry, 2 bad ones in a row. I hope this is the first of a few Roots albums that we see. At number 150, we have How I Got Over from 2010. This is probably my favorite hip-hop LP from that year. 2010 was kind of a janky year for hip-hop. That's not to take away from how good this album was. The Roots got progressively darker as the years went by and as they entered sort of the late phases of their career. They also released an album in 2011 called Undone, which was also extremely dark. Lyrically, this thing is harrowing and serious, and musically it really does feature their live instrumentation, and they take it to a new level here, which is really well appreciated. And back to the lyrics for a second, it's more mature and honest really than anything that was coming out at that time. 2010 was a very materialistic year for hip-hop, and the Roots kept it fresh. I continue to marvel at how the Roots evolved as their career went on over about a 20-year period before they really stopped putting albums out in the mid-2010s. And this and 2011's Undone are albums I really hope to see on this list. Great late career albums by the Roots. Number 150 makes sense. I'd probably put it higher though, a little bit. A classic DJ Screw mixtape at number 149, 3 in the Morning Part 2. I've already expressed my dislike for including mixtapes on this thing and not just pure hip-hop albums, but since there's nothing I can do about that, I have secretly been hoping for a DJ Screw tape this whole time. It features a lot of chopped and screwed versions of existing Southern and West Coast hip-hop songs. There's a lot of great Deep Houston stuff on here. My favorite from this mixtape album, whatever you want to call it, is Pimp the Pen by Houston legend Lil Keke. I think this is a great placement. Low-key, Houston has had one of the greatest regional scenes in American hip-hop history. Houston gets slept on way too much, but it's so deep. And DJ Screw was one of the most important components of Houston hip-hop in the 90s prior to his untimely death in the year 2000. Run the Jewels 2 by Run the Jewels number 148. I mostly like it. I'd probably argue for a top 100 placement. I do think this is their strongest album. Killer Mike and LP came together in the early 2010s. They were part of a resurgence of a breakout of kind of new experimental hip-hop in the early to mid 2010s. And their self-titled debut from the year before, it was boundary pushing, it was experimental, but they refined everything from that first album, made it 10 times better, and Run the Jewels 2 is a solid album. They amp up the already prominent energy from their debut, and lyrically, they dig deep on some social issues while also bringing the swagger. Oh My Darling, Don't Cry is the favorite here for me, but the Zach De La Rocha assisted Close Your Eyes is also one of my favorites. And that Gangsta Boo spot on the song Love Again. At number 147 from 1985, we have LL Cool J's game-changing debut, Radio. Capitalizing on the then-new sound that was taking over in the mid-80s in hip-hop courtesy of acts like Houdini and Run DMC, Cool J took it to the next level with a proud, technical, battle rap, in-your-face style that was even more hardcore than anything that Run DMC or Houdini had given us to that point. He sounded like no one else in the game at the time. He was 17, but brought this insane aggression. The criticism I have about this album is the beats are very stripped down. It's forgivable for 1985, but going back and listening to this thing years later, it sounds very primitive. To the untrained ear, it's easy to forget that this is such an influential album. If you don't look at this in the proper context, it just kind of sounds antiquated, but its influence, it's pretty broad. I think Rolling Stone got this one right. Top 150 makes a lot of sense. You can't love this album too much because yes, it hasn't aged well, but it showed Cool J breaking boundaries as an MC. He really set the stage for Rakim to do the same thing in the next year or two after that. Black Sheep's A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing, their debut from 1991, is number 146. Hey, I think this is another good placement. We'll take it. Part of that super influential Golden Age era Native Tongues collective, Drez and Mr. Lange bring us a late Golden Age classic with this record. While the album is pretty long, the deep cuts are all very solid in my eyes, but the way the world knows this album and Black Sheep is off of The Choice Is Yours. I'm white. I've been to a lot of weddings with white people, and I've seen a lot of white people go crazy when the wedding DJ plays this song, specifically the Engine number 9 part. Honestly, it's turned me off over the years, but you can't forget just how classic this album is. Look far beyond The Choice Is Yours. There's so many great deep cuts. This is a early 90s New York borderline classic. Drez had some great lyrical work on this thing, although it never got too deep or too serious, and I think overall top 150 makes a pretty good deal of sense. B from Common at number 145. Isn't this album like a huge critical darling? Don't the publications usually glaze the hell out of this thing? I mean, they should, because it's a fantastic record. Common spits some of the best, most introspective and well-executed bars of his career, which he was 15 years into by this time. But I have to admit, the thing that throws this over the edge is the peak era Kanye West beats. I've said this many times on this channel. I'm not a Kanye West fan. I never have been. I've always thought he was a shit head, but I give credit where credit is due. These are some of the best soul-based hip-hop instrumentals of all time. This is some of the best work that Kanye has ever done on the boards. He's a fantastic producer, at least he was, and this might be his best work. You combine that Chicago connection here, it really works. There's a ton of chemistry between the two. I think this belongs in the top 100. I think this is another example of Rolling Stone underrating an album. It's surprising because critics love this record. Reloaded by Rock Marciano at number 144. I love Rock Marciano. I've been a fan of his for over a decade now. It's been fun kind of watching him rise up through the ranks of underground mafioso rap to legendary status. This is a cold, dark album that had early drumless influences, and guys like Griselda and Freddie Gibbs can essentially thank Rock Marciano for laying the blueprint, the foundation for what is now modern day coke rap. Add to this the fact that Marciano produced the majority of this album himself with a few guest production spots from big names like The Alchemist and Q-Tip, and I think you have a modern day classic in Reloaded. This album rips. It's Rock Marciano's best project, and while Rolling Stone is giving it recognition, and I think Rock Marciano does deserve recognition and it should be this album, I think this is a little too low. This is kind of knocking on the door of my top 100. Eternal at Take, Lil Uzi Vert's second album from 2020, makes the list at number 143 here. Listen, I appreciate how Lil Uzi Vert offers this different, almost psychedelic angle to trap and pop rap. He definitely comes out of left field and he's different, he's unique, but overall not my cup of tea, I'm sorry. I thought his debut LP, Love is Rage 2, if you're going to include any of his projects on this list, it should be that one, but at the same time, I don't think anything by Lil Uzi Vert belongs on a top 200 hip-hop albums list. Again, he was original, a little bit trailblazing, and I think the reason that this was done was that Rolling Stone had said at the beginning of this list, if you go into the article and read, it says, we know there's artists like A Tribe Called Quest and Outkast that have nearly spotless discographies, and they made the argument that instead of include every single Outkast or Tribe album, or maybe Gang Starr album, I'm thinking of other artists with great discographies that really don't miss. They said they were going to include other artists, alternate, newer artists, instead of including 5 entries from Outkast. It makes sense, but at the same time, you can do better than Lil Uzi Vert, as influential as he is. So I think Uzi Vert makes it onto the list just for that reason, and while I appreciate his unique style, I don't agree with this pick. Alright, here's one that's good to listening. Little Brother's 2003 debut makes it at number 142. I hope we see their next album, 2005's The Minstrel Show, a little bit later on this list, but The Listening is a great debut from the North Carolina group who consists of 2 rappers, Phonte and Big Pooh, as well as legendary producer Ninth Wonder. That was the original lineup for their first, I think, 2 or 3 albums. This is conscious southern hip-hop with Ninth Wonder's patented soul samples, very deep sampling here, which throw what is an already strong lyrical performance by the 2 MCs over the top. The production and lyricism combination on early Little Brother work is fantastic. This album is long and busy, but the song Speed is my favorite song off of here it's been in rotation for me since it came out. These guys are witty, they're humorous, and Ninth Wonder provides these warm and yet aggressive soundscapes. This is a formidable debut by the trio, and I think it's a good pick at number 142. Last one for this section, and this one is going to end the list on a sour note for me. This is a personal favorite of mine. Number 141, Enter the Stage by Black Moon. Too Low. This is one of the most important records in New York's early to mid 90s resurgence, after the West Coast kind of stole the birthplace of hip-hop's thunder in the very early 90s towards the end of the golden age. Now this scene, this gritty, new, violent, really energetic scene that came out of the 5 boroughs in the mid 90s, it set the stage, it paved the way for artists like Nas, Notorious B.I.G., and Mobb Deep to succeed. I'm an East Coast guy, I live in New York, been here for a long time. This is the hip-hop that I know and love. And I've noticed the theme, Rolling Stone's really underrating these classic New York albums from this era. This continues at this pick at number 141, Black Moon, Enter the Stage. Are we serious? It's a little bit lo-fi, it's a little bit gritty, but at the same time, it was game-changing. This and Wu-Tang Clan's Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, they sound very similar production-wise. Dark, gritty, guttural beats, kind of experimental, boundary pushing. The rest of New York woke up, they heard those 2 albums. They also heard albums like Onyx's Back the F up from earlier in 1993, and they decided, wow, let's get really heavy and hardcore with it. So this is one of the first truly nihilistic New York albums. The beat miners laced this thing up with some incredible beats, some trunk-rattling guttural beats. And MC's 5-foot accelerator, and especially Buckshot, who did most of the lyrical work on here, tells some really harrowing, violent tales that they were not glorifying the violence, they were just telling the story of what was happening on the streets of their inner city Brooklyn neighborhood. It's a form of street journalism, it's storytelling. I don't don't necessarily consider it glorification. The syncopated, no-nonsense flows of Buckshot, man. He just changed the game for rappers during that time. And Buckshot is super slept on as one of these unique MCs that offered something new. It was hard to offer something new lyrically and style-wise in the mid-90s, but Buckshot did. All these things, you bring them together, this is a top 30 all-time hip-hop album for me. This is probably the most egregious pick that Rolling Stone has had so far. Number 141, Enter the Stage. If you don't think this is a top 100 or top 50 album, I want you to go back and listen to it now. Listen to the songs Who Got the Props, Blacksmith and Wesson, How Many MCs, listen to the whole damn thing, and tell me that Boot Camp Click's debut album doesn't at least deserve a spot, maybe in the top 75. Another 20 albums down, another mixture of decent and some downright stupid picks. That Black Moon pick at number 141, that seriously ended this on a sour note for me, and this section of the list was actually bookended by two garbage picks. Big L's Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous at 160. They just continue to disrespect New York East Coast hip-hop albums. I know, that's my taste, it's personal preference. What do you think about those picks? I know I got a lot of older school fans here. I appreciate the new school opinions too, so if you're younger, tell me what you think about this as well. How do you feel, if you're younger or not, about a Lil Uzi Vert album being placed 2 spots ahead of one of the best Midwest hip-hop albums of all time, one of the best of the 2000s in Commons B? Comment below. Let's discuss. We're making some really nice progress on this list. We're already 3 sections in with 7 more to go. Reminder, this is a 10-part video series, 20 albums per video. Things are going to continue to get more and more high stakes as we get deeper into the list. I'm getting kind of excited. As cynical as I can be, this is fun for me to do, and I'm glad to have you guys along. I'm going to thank you once again for tuning in. Thank you as always for rocking with me. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.